Along with some fog, Colorado Springs, their visibility down to 0, and the usual pattern of fog here and there along the Pacific coast. Now, temperature extremes at 6 a.m. Eastern, 5 Central Time ranged from 83 at Biloxi, Mississippi. It was 24 degrees both at Jackson, Wyoming, and in Yellowstone Park.
Update on Andrew, if you would.
Well, Bryant, the center of that storm is very close to the Lafayette area, New Iberia area. You can see it on the radar right here. A couple of things. One is it's starting to fill a little bit. That means it's starting to weaken. The core region of that hurricane is starting to weaken. The winds are starting to come down. The other thing that may be encouraging is that it may be starting to take that slow northward drift. And if that is the case, then it will start to weaken more rapidly than as we discussed a little bit earlier.
I'm not trying to second guess you, and the person in New Iberia certainly wasn't in a position to in terms of expertise, but was suggesting that the eye had not reached New Iberia yet. Is that possible?
Well, it's right over, according to our radar, they're right over the New Iberia area.
As I look at this map, Bob, we're talking about Andrew heading in a west and northerly direction. How far west might it get? Will it stretch as far, perhaps, as Lake Charles?
We thought that it was going to go a little bit farther west across the Lafayette area and then turn, not getting as far as Lake Charles, and it still may wobble back here, but not getting near as far as Lake Charles. They may get some of the outer bands from this, but that looks like about all they're going to get from it.
Of course, it loses some steam as it goes across land. Will it get as far north as Alexandria?
Yes, we think it will do that, but it probably will be down to the tropical storm force or less by the time it gets there.
But bringing rain throughout?
Rain and tornadoes. That's what they're going to face across Louisiana for the next 24 hours or so.
And Texas in the clear?
Texas is basically in the clear. Some of those outer bands, they propagate outward, and you might have something kicked off over there in Texas.
Okay, Bob Sheets, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Katie?
Bryant, LaPlace, Louisiana, suffered the wrath of Andrew early this morning on the phone.
And it was only an hour or so between that just fine and when the big blow hit in Miami. Yeah. So, again, you're seeing a microcosm. You can't really tell.
Okay, Bob Hager, thank you. Bob's in Lafayette, just about 20 miles south of him on the line in New Iberia is Roger O'Neill. Roger, what's the latest on your end?
Well, what they're saying here, Brian, some of the emergency officials saying we have sustained winds of 120 miles an hour with gusts up to 160 miles an hour. I've got no way to verify that, except I certainly wouldn't argue with it where we're sitting. I listened to Governor Edwards talking about the evacuation center. We are at that center. It is at the New Iberia High School, senior high school, and indeed a large portion of the roof has blown off, but they're not evacuating the high school because there's nowhere to evacuate to. They are moving people around inside, away from the area of the roof that has been blown off and continues to blow off. I also listened to Mr. Sheets talking about the eye of the hurricane. If there is an eye, we are not in it, or it is so small that it has missed New Iberia, because it's still blowing as it always has been blowing for the last 4 or 5 hours, as hard as it has been here.
Okay, Roger, just to clarify something, the roof was blown off. It did not collapse.
That is correct. The roof of the high school did not collapse. It is just blowing off in these winds and gusts that are going up to 160 miles an hour.
And no people injured as a direct result of that roof?
That is correct. They're moving them around into more secure hallways.
Okay, Roger O'Neill on the line with us from New Iberia, Louisiana. My goodness.
Well, that's better news because Governor Edwards said there were 1,800 people in that shelter.
He
that
said
would
he
have
had
been
just
a
gotten that
disaster.
report, so yeah, we're glad to be able to clarify that one. 7:41. We're going to come on back in just a moment. Continue to chart
Answers is Jay Grimes. He is the state climatologist for Louisiana and a busy man. Nice to join us this morning, Jay. I appreciate it.
Good morning, sir.
This one has slowed down some. It moved so fast through Florida, but it's moving slowly through Louisiana. What does that do to you?
Well, what that means for us is that particularly along the coastal margins of the state, the potential for additional flooding increases. What we're really concerned about right now is the tornadic activity that's been associated with the storm earlier this morning. We suspect that could continue through later today. In fact, tornado watch has been extended till this afternoon.
Jay, without getting too technical about it, Florida didn't get tornadoes out of this hurricane. You're getting some. Why?
That's probably because right now conditions here are such that we have what we call vertical shear. There's a shift in the winds from the surface going upwards into the atmosphere. That gives you the sort of the additional rotation necessary to turn an already dangerous thunderstorm into a potential tornado.
Jay, is Louisiana particularly vulnerable in these cases because you've got so much low country, and this is coming in over the bayous and the marshlands?
That's right. Certainly, water is our biggest problem, even in conditions when a hurricane isn't occurring. Right now, we're getting all this additional rain. They're talking about upwards to 10 inches locally in a few locations. This is low country that doesn't drain well. That spells disaster for some people.
Is this behaving as you expected in terms of its movement? It's going to go right up the state, I gather.
That's the way the National Hurricane Center has called it, and they've been right on for the most part. It's slowed down a little bit, and I don't think they anticipated that. But essentially, the storm is doing what they expected it to do, and I have to give it to the experts.
Why do you get it so bad? I mean, you know, I was interested. Florida really hasn't had as many storms as I would have thought when we went back over the history, but you get hit in Louisiana with persistent regularity.
Historically, Louisiana is not the place to be, maybe, if you want to think about hurricanes. Our coastline gets hit more than any other along the Gulf Coast, and that has at least in part to do with the curvature of the storms. They typically take that movement first north and then frequently northeasterly. We just happen to be in the right geographic spot to take the brunt of those storms.
Yeah, bad for the people of Louisiana. Interesting, I suppose, for a climatologist.
Good for business, bad for the folks. That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks very much, Jay Grimes. I appreciate your being with us. Somebody said, as bad as this storm is, one of the imposing things to think about is this is the beginning of hurricane season, and we're only in Hurricane Andrew. It is 5 minutes before the hour. Good Morning America continues in just a moment.
Feel the same way now?
Yes, I'll stick by that so far, but again, we may be on the leading edge. I mean, it's hard to tell when you're in the middle of it and you're not looking at that radar, and sometimes I'm not sure the radar's that reliable anyway. But not knowing where we are in this, so far I'd say it's not as bad as Miami. No, not at all.
Bob, can you give us a sense of what it's like standing out there getting pummeled by that rain and what those winds are like?
You can feel them pretty good, and here comes it's a good time to ask that question, because we got a real good gust right there. And so it varies. I mean, some moments like now it's quieter, and then all of a sudden one big gust will come along and whack you. But know, too, that although we're standing here in the middle of nowhere, we're never very far. I mean, about 25 feet over that way is the Cinder Block County Emergency Preparedness Center. So it's not like you're standing out here the whole time.
But, Bob, you were in a cinder block building in Florida, and that shook pretty good, didn't it?
It sure did, and I was surprised at that. I remember one in Hurricane Hugo in Charleston, where the roof almost came off of the County Emergency Center. But indeed, the building did shake in Miami.
Well, it might be a good idea for you to head to cover right now. Bob Hager, thanks so much.
Okay, see you later, Katie.
Roger O'Neill is in New Iberia, Louisiana this morning, another town in the hurricane's path. He's on the phone with us. Good morning, Roger. What can you tell us from New Iberia?
Good morning, Katie. I can tell you that Bob Hager may be changing his mind shortly because we're about 20 miles from him, and the worst just hit here. The worst of the last 4 or 5 hours just hit here. The rain continues to come down as heavy as it has. The wind has picked up a little bit. The last time I was talking with you, they were talking about sustained winds of 120 in New Iberia. I certainly wouldn't argue with that now. We've been inside the high school where there are 1,800 families, the New Iberia High School. It's the major shelter for this area. Much of the roof has been blown apart and blown off. It has not collapsed. There is 3 or 4 inches of water throughout the entire school. There has been some minor panic among the families and the children who have been trying to wait this thing out. But there have been no injuries, and no one is moving because there is nowhere to move to.
Roger, do you think the worst is over, or do you think you might still be experiencing the tail end of this storm?
I can't tell you that. I can tell you that it has not, in the last 5 minutes, we have just experienced the worst of the last 5 hours.
All right, Roger O'Neill, thank you. Take care of yourself. Houma was one of the first Louisiana towns hit by Andrew this morning. Jim Cummins is there. Jim, Did the town take a direct hit from Andrew?
I think that the town did not take quite a direct hit, but it did get hit hard. I think the winds ranged from anywhere from 60 to 115 miles per hour overnight. We had strong gusts. And then at the tail end of the hurricane, we had a lot of rain. As you can see, we have daybreak here now. Civil defense people are going out to assess the damage. We're at a junior high school, which is an emergency evacuation center. And as I look around, I can see the roof has been damaged, gutters have been damaged. Trees are still standing, but branches and lots of shrubs have been ripped out of the ground. So there has been significant damage here. The big fear here, Katie, is flooding. With all of the heavy rains, this is an area that floods very easily, and along with those floods, they have trouble with snakes and alligators.
Quick question, Jim. What about tornadoes? There was a lot of concern about them.
That's right. There were several tornadoes sighted in this area, several more, maybe dozens, perhaps dozens throughout Louisiana. And of course, those accompany these big hurricanes. And we know of one case here in the immediate area where a man says a tornado came and knocked over a tree and it took off part of his house. And that's a big concern right now among the authorities is that these tornadoes will be spawned in the wake of the hurricane.
All right, Jim Cummins, thanks so much. Let's check in with the National Hurricane Center and Dr. Bob Sheets. Good morning again, Dr. Sheets. What's the latest?
Well, Katie, the center of this storm is drifting very slowly to the north. Earlier when I talked to Brian, I thought the center was going to move right across the Lafayette area, but now it seems to be drifting very slowly to north, and the Lafayette area is in the eye wall. We're saying that winds are probably about 80 to 100 miles per hour. We don't really have any way of measuring those winds at this stage, and yet we're getting reports that maybe some of those winds are actually stronger than that.
Wow. Dr. Sheets, it has been downgraded, I understand, to a Category 3.
That's right, and maybe even getting down to Category 2. You see, what we do is we try to predict the normal decay rate as a hurricane moves inland, but this one seems to be a little bit strange.
It is still, however, a very dangerous storm nonetheless.
Yes, very much so. The rain that we're getting there is going to be there for the next 12 to 24 hours, and as your reporter there indicated, that's a real problem in Louisiana. They've already had a lot of flash floods, heavy rains, and so the place is already saturated, and then the tornadoes, so they're going to see that for at least the next 24 hours.
Even though the hurricane has been downgraded, Dr. Sheets, it's still likely to spawn those very dangerous tornadoes?
Yes, that's because of the rain bands are there. It gets that warm, moist air coming up off the Gulf of Mexico, and then you get some of that cool, dry air aloft coming down off the continental United States. So it's typical for tornadoes in that area, for hurricanes in that area to generate tornadoes.
All right, Dr. Bob Sheets, thanks so much. Although the hurricane may have spared New Orleans the full brunt of its fury, it has spawned at least a dozen tornadoes, as Dr. Sheets mentioned, that have devastated several of the city's suburbs. Tornadoes cut a path between Reserve and La Place this morning, destroying at least 50 homes and knocking out power throughout most of the area. At least 30 people were injured, and officials are warning of possible gas leaks.
30 miles an hour. It's difficult to know because the wind gauge here at the Morgan City Hall broke at about 123 miles an hour. There is extensive damage over much of the city. From our vantage point right here at City Hall, we can see several buildings with their roofs completely torn off. There is some flooding in one section of the city. We are told that there is up to 3 or 4 feet of water in one residential area. We also understand there are a few injuries at a local hospital. We do not know how severe they are. As many as 2,000 residents of this city have been in a shelter nearby. We understand that the shelter held up well and that those people are safe and dry this morning. But certainly some of the heaviest winds from the landfall here in Louisiana have struck the town of Morgan City, and we are given to understand that the damage here is quite extensive. Scott Pelley, CBS News, Morgan City, Louisiana.
Look at the map of Louisiana. This killer hurricane sort of shouldered the lower coast, which is mostly marshland and bio country, from Grand Isle, Louisiana, on up to just above Morgan City, then just north of Morgan City, from where Scott Pelley just reported, the main portion of the eye came in.
You can see how Andrew roared up there out of the Atlantic, swept its way across the southern tip of Florida, of course wreaking havoc primarily along the East Coast, doing up to $15 billion worth of damage, and then moving out into the Gulf, where for a day it built up in intensity and now is just after midnight rushed ashore in Louisiana, bringing destruction, So far, no reports of death with it, but that's an optimistic assessment.
We're certainly looking forward to the morning when Andrew is no more and we don't have to show that radar map.
Yeah, you got that right. But for the time being, we do, and as we continue to, we are checking in periodically with Dr. Bob Sheets, who's the director of the National Hurricane Center in Coral Gables, Florida. I spoke with him just a couple of minutes ago and got this update on Andrew's status.
Well, Brian, it's just about what we said a little bit earlier there with Katie. It hasn't moved very much in the last hour or so. It's just drifting slowly toward the north there. It's not moved over Lafayette. The eye wall seems to be over Lafayette, and just a very slow drift.
Is it losing any intensity?
We would think that it would be. In fact, we normally forecast with a sort of a decay rate and knowing decay rate as storms move ashore, but this has been one of those strange hurricanes. We think the winds ought to be about 80 to 100 miles per hour and slowly decreasing here, but we keep getting reports that maybe they're a little stronger than that.
How can it be moving so slowly and still sustain its inner intensity?
Well, it means it's still remaining close to the coast, and of course that's where the warm, moist air is. The fuel for this storm is coming up off the Gulf of Mexico, and as long as it remains close to that coast, then it's going to be a very slow rate of decay.
I'm trying to read this map as I talk to you, Bob. Is it going to proceed as far west as Lake Charles?
No, we don't think so. We think that force that was driving it to the west is basically gone, and now it's a very slow drift here at this time.
So it'll spend itself and hit its way up New Iberia, Lafayette. Will it get up to Alexandria?
Eventually, it's going to start that northward turn there. The question is whether or not it's going to have enough force to pick it up there within the next 12 hours or so. After about 24 hours, definitely it will be moving that direction.
One final question, Bob. If it's too personal and you choose not to answer, I understand. We have an unconfirmed report here that your home suffered some damage in Florida.
Well, yes, and my daughter and my son and grandchildren and so on, but we're all fine.
Everybody safe?
Yes.
How bad's the home?
My home is livable. My daughter's is not.
Okay. Dr. Bob Sheets. Thanks very much, Bob.
Okay, you're welcome.
Bob Hager is in Lafayette, Louisiana this morning as Hurricane Andrew passes through. Bob, we heard Bob Sheets say that it doesn't appear that Lafayette is going to bear the brunt of the storm, or at least right now. What's it feel like from your vantage point?
Well, I think I wouldn't argue with that. We've had some very, very strong gusts, as you know, but it's not a long, sustained period of big blow. As I said earlier, nothing like Miami. So I think that I was trying to figure this out. Most of these hurricanes are very well defined. They build, and then you get the eye, and it goes down, and then it builds again, and it moves through in a very logical fashion. Here, that's not happening at all. I think it's the fact that it's over land now, and it's much less well-defined, so it's erratic. I would also say because of that, it seems to me like it wouldn't build. Normally, they have to be over water and hanging around off a coast to really get strong.
I know, Bob, you've been talking all morning about how the people in Lafayette are very concerned about flooding. What's the situation there?
So far, we've not had that flooding. Well, I say that. It's easy to say that standing here. Caution, you can't really tell anything until you go out and look at it. But so far, we've not had reports of major flooding. There have been some roads closed because of flooding. You know, I guess, honestly, it's just too early to say.
All right, Bob Hager, thanks so much. I'd like to say stay dry, but no point in that. Thanks, Bob. Roger O'Neill is in New Iberia, Louisiana this morning. He's on the phone with us. Roger, what's the latest there?
Well, I really wish that I could say that it's getting better, but I don't think I honestly can. The only thing that has changed in New Iberia from the last time I talked to you is it's gotten a little bit lighter, and now we can see why it's so dangerous out there because all this stuff is flying through the air, and we can see it. The rain continues to come down, perhaps not quite as hard as it has been, but it is still horizontal, which is to say that the wind is still blowing like the devil.
Have you been able, Roger, as Ed Richard did, to walk around and look and see what has happened so far?
Yeah, we have done some walking around. We've tried to do some driving around. There is some flooding. It is not major flooding yet. There is widespread damage throughout New Iberia, however. I mean, if there is a sign up that is not damaged, I have not seen it yet. And at the high school, parts of the roof continue to blow off the top of it. The 3 inches of water is probably down to 4 inches now throughout the floor of that school. I'd have to hazard a guess, Katie, that we've had more than 6 or 8 inches of rain so far in the last 5 or 6 hours.
Roger O'Neill, thanks so much. As Andrew hit early this morning, it spun off a tornado just west of New Orleans. The twister hit the small suburb of Laplace. More than 50 people were injured and dozens of homes...
More than 30,000 people have died in the United States, Mexico, and the Caribbean in this century from the high winds, heavy rains, and tidal surges that come with hurricanes. Camille, which struck the coast of Mississippi and Louisiana August 17, 1969, was the most powerful hurricane in this century to come ashore in the United States. In some regions, the ocean rose 25 feet above sea level. The destruction was vast. 256 died. Weather forecasters issued the warning at 10:30 a.m. that Camille would arrive that evening, only a few hours warning. But on September 8, 1900, in Galveston, Texas, there was no warning. The forecast called for a sunny day. 6,000 died. With satellite photos, hurricanes are no longer surprises. And at the National Hurricane Center, forecasters have been getting slightly better year by year. Scientists are learning more about hurricanes, but prediction is still difficult and inexact. Atlantic hurricanes begin with small atmospheric disturbances, areas of low pressure that move off the west coast of Africa. As the low pressure travels over the Atlantic, the Earth's rotation causes it to spin in a counterclockwise direction north of the equator. Heat from the ocean rises up in the center of the storm, which leads to the middle, or eye, of the hurricane. Around the eye are layers of severe thunderstorms.
I don't see the field here. I think we ought to go around.
An airplane flying into a hurricane first bounces through the thunderstorms on the edge and then moves into the amazing calm of the eye. NOAA, the parent agency of the Weather Service, operates these flights to learn exactly where the center of the storm is and to try to learn more about forecasting the path of hurricanes in the future.
At the National Weather Service, Bob Sheets, who we keep seeing every few minutes this morning, has a lot of help from a lot of very good people, and they use computer models that they generate from some of those airplane flights. But one of the best methods of forecasting is just the old-timers there who say, well, I remember that the storm in 1938 took this track, and it's going to behave that way again.
At the risk of sounding incredibly stupid, how broad are these things?
Well, we can see that they're hundreds of miles across. You mean the eye wall or the hurricane?
I'm talking about the hurricane itself. I mean, it shows huge on the screen as Bob shows us on the radar.
Right. The most intense activity, of course, is near the eye. The eye is 10 to 40 miles across. If there is a well-defined eye, and there was in this hurricane, at least until it went ashore, then it goes out in lessening amounts from there.
And scientifically, I mean, don't get too technical on me, how do they spin tornadoes off?
They spin tornadoes because of the thunderstorms. Tornadoes occur when there's an enormous amount of heat rising and in the air and making a very unstable atmosphere. So what you just have around the outside of a hurricane is you have a lot of thunderstorms, not just one summer thunderstorm, but thousands of them. And so therefore you have a lot of tornadoes, particularly when it comes ashore.
Okay. Bob Bazell, thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
8:50. We're going to come on back in just a moment after we take a break. This is Today on...
Commander Doug Otto flew a crisscross diamond pattern through and around Andrew, providing a 200-mile diameter look at the storm as it moved toward land. Weather officer Andy Johnson monitored several instruments which constantly indicate barometric pressure and wind speed and direction at the plane's altitude of 10,000 feet. Radio-equipped canisters filled with weather instruments are dropped into the eye. Slowed by parachute, the canisters measure conditions from the plane to the surface. The data from the plane is continuously sent by an onboard satellite transmitter to forecasters at the National Hurricane Center in Coral Gables, Florida.
We had to code the information and then relay it by voice. It was very slow and very tedious, and we could not get nearly the volume of data out to the forecasters we can now.
It is information that weather satellites alone cannot provide. In fact, meteorologists say reconnaissance flights like this one increase their accuracy in predicting hurricanes by as much as 25%.
Crew members, who are nearly all reservists living in Gulf states, see this as much more than a scientific mission.
We've grown up in hurricanes. They've affected us all our lives. We feel like we can help our communities and give something back.
But what about the danger? In all the years the government has flown these missions, only one plane has crashed. To a person, the storm trackers on this mission say they would prefer to ride out a hurricane at 10,000 feet.
Look at that, isn't that?
Miles O'Brien, CNN, Charleston, South Carolina.
Well, Lloyd's been tracking straight from the weather lab, and I know you've been measuring those wind gusts. Where have the worst ones been?
Well, during the early morning hours, a place called New Ibernia, Louisiana, was 120 gusting to 160. Wow. Yeah, that was the worst. Good news, though, the hurricane has been downgraded. It's down to 75 miles an hour. That's the latest. All right, here's our current conditions. We have heat and humidity today. It is hot, 90 degrees in the weather lab right now. The humidity is 55%, very oppressive for that kind of temperature. No wind, and the barometer 3011 and falling. Good afternoon, everybody. Happy to have you with us today. Why not? Hello, Bay Ridge. Jack and Shirley, they had their 41st anniversary yesterday, but we held off on the hellos yesterday because of the severity of the hurricanes. But indeed, it is weakening rapidly now. As a matter of fact, it's barely a hurricane anymore. Minimal, down to a Category 1, sustained winds, 75 miles an hour. It is centered right, well, to be exact, 8 miles or 10 miles west of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Now, the Baton Rouge airport is reporting wind gusts as high as 70 miles an hour right now. Lake Charles, Louisiana, over here in the southwest corner, reported 3 inches of rain in 1 hour. That is really, really laying it down. All right, again, we have downgraded this. The Hurricane Center tells us it's down to 75. It's losing its eye, and the hurricane will continue to weaken as it moves over land. It breaks it up rapidly, and I would think by later this afternoon, as a matter of fact, it wouldn't surprise me in an hour or two if Andrew were downgraded to a tropical storm, and probably by tonight, he'll only be a tropical depression. However, tornadoes are science breaking out all over Mississippi, eastern Louisiana, tornado warnings all over the place. The difference between the strike at Louisiana and the strike in southern Florida, it was mainly severe wind damage, but in Louisiana, a combination of severe wind, but also very heavy rains and tornadoes. So you put the whole ball of wax together, and it has really been one heck of a storm. And again, downgraded, you can see the really bright white clouds are now moving into southern Mississippi as the storm tracks to the northeast. This will affect us a little bit towards the latter portion of the week, probably by Friday, because some of Andrew's moisture will stream up to the northeast, combined with a cold front coming in from the west. So Friday looks rather wet around here. All right, from the Channel 9 weather.
The ice storm, the pre-dawn hours, and during the course of the morning, it made a sharp turn to the north and is spinning around, and now is only packing winds of 50 miles an hour. Here's the latest, just in from the National Hurricane Center. The location is in northeastern Louisiana, moving just over into Mississippi, winds of 50 miles an hour, moving north at about 8 miles an hour. But take a look at what we've got by tomorrow. The remnants of the storm move in towards western Tennessee and Kentucky. We have an ocean storm that wants to drift back to the west. This could make for us a very wet Saturday and Sunday. We'll have more on that later on in the broadcast. But the good news for the folks down in Louisiana, winds have died down considerably, and the worst is over. David?
Okay. The day was for us. Here's the big story for the week so far. Hurricane Andrew, now Tropical Storm Andrew, throwing a good deal of its force and a lot of clouds and heavy rain still for not only Louisiana, but now for Mississippi and also into corners of Alabama and Georgia as well. Rain is falling in heavy amounts in this way, and the winds are still up to about 50 miles per hour, about 60 miles wide across the center of this storm. It is likely to be a rough night for all points north as it continues its path, kind of headed toward the southeast, it looks like here. When we were watching this storm from the very beginning to move through Nassau, Eleuthera at about 5 o'clock Sunday, we thought it looked kind of familiar to us. Hurricane Betsy in 1965 took just about the same path, not only through the Everglades, which is uncommon enough, but hurricanes tend to wander a lot when they move into the Gulf, not really having a steady direction. This one ended up making landfall just about 50 miles west of where Betsy did in 1965. It's the last big hurricane that everyone had been talking about in the Gulf Coast region of Louisiana, and now Andrew has married it. Only one big, strong difference between Andrew and Betsy. Andrew was much stronger, Category 4 hurricane. Now, though, a tropical storm sitting in its current position right in the center of Louisiana, throwing an awful lot of rain. Rainfall totals have been 5-6 inches in a lot of places down to the south. They will get an additional 8 inches in some cases in this eastern edge of Louisiana. Heavier rains, 2, 3, 4 inches, probably moving up through Mississippi as well.
As far as me down the street here after talking about these weekends that have been trouble. And this weekend will prove no different, I'm afraid, folks. We have problems coming up this weekend. But let's get to the shorthand forecast. First of all, today was hazy and humid as expected. We had a little air mass thunderstorm pass through parts of the area this afternoon. Same deal tomorrow as this front is still off to our west, and there's Andrew raining itself out across the lower Mississippi Valley states. But eventually that's going to have a play in our weather as that front comes through. And notice again, Andrew sort of spinning down through here. That will get picked up eventually by the front, so our shower chance will increase come Friday on into the early part of Saturday. And also, to complicate matters, a system off Bermuda that may turn into a tropical depression may move at us towards the weekend, so we may have some problems. Let's go and check out our current reading in Central Park. It's 76 degrees. High humidity at 94% with a southerly wind at 3. The barometer is steady. The high was 90, the low 72. Right to the 5-day forecast we go. And we have a low tomorrow morning of 73, high tomorrow 88, just like today with some scattered thunderstorms. Better chance of rain Friday and Saturday as we cool back a little bit on into Sunday. And then there you go, again, another weekend where it could be a problem. I'll have more tonight for you at 10. Lynn?
Oh, thank you very much. Tom McDonald's here.
It continues to weaken, and it'll slowly be pulling out of those areas in Louisiana and Mississippi that have been getting it all day long from Andrew. Again, it's not been officially downgraded yet from tropical storm to a tropical depression, but I'm sure that's going to happen in any minute now. Nonetheless, the bad news is that Andrew is going to be affecting our upcoming weather forecast. Let's go and check out our stats today. We had a little effect of summertime in New York. It was hazy and humid. We got up to 90 again in New York today. 72 the low this morning. We had a little roundabout thunderstorms here and there this afternoon. Got about a 1/12 of an inch of rain here in the city, a little more in some other places. 103 in 1948 and 53 in 1887, give our extremes. 75 now, very uncomfortable outside. It's so hazy, murky, it's really just ugly to look at New York and the tri-state area tonight. Wind out of the south at 5 in the barometer, 30.08, and it's holding steady. It's very warm in many parts of our area still. 81 at Newark, 80 at LaGuardia, 76 at Farmingdale and Oceanside tonight, same at Mattituck, and you got 76 coming in from New Haven, and then lower 70s, even some upper 60s in northwest New Jersey by Vernon and Oak Ridge and Hawthorne right now. Here's the close-up satellite. A few clouds again off to our south with the dying thunderstorms from earlier. More clouds out to the west, and the wide satellite's going to show you lots of clouds with a cold front moving through with showers and thunderstorms in the Midwest. And this, the remnants, or I guess we should still say tropical storm, soon to be tropical depression Andrew. And notice the clouds are still coming up out of the Gulf there, so they're still getting tropical air and tropical rains across southern Mississippi. Put that in combination with this area out over Bermuda, and that is an area that we're going to be watching very, very closely to see if indeed that will form into a tropical depression, because those ingredients may both combine to give us a mess of a forecast coming up this weekend. Tonight, the weather map showing fair weather still along the east coast, hazy and humid basically all up and down the coast. Tomorrow, no real change. We'll still watch that system off the air, and we'll still watch these thunderstorms with the leftovers of Andrew moving up into the Midwest. And again, the problem is by later Friday, this all will start merging towards us, so Saturday really looks like a washout. We may save part of Sunday. Hazy, muggy, and some fog overnight. About 73 in the city, mid-60s in the suburbs. Tomorrow will be just like today with an afternoon thunderstorm, high 88. 5-day forecast. Now, we'll show you more storms likely later Friday, 82. The best chance on Saturday, maybe some heavy rain, 77. I'm hoping again they'll get out of here for maybe a portion of Sunday, 78, and then drying out just in time for your Monday. I mean, that's the way this summer has been, unfortunately. More weather updates for you tomorrow morning on Hot.
Across the country. One branch of the jet in the Pacific Northwest is associated with a cold front that's pushing into western Canada. Another branch of the jet is pushing out of the southern plains northward into the Atlantic provinces of Canada. This is helping to bring moisture northward. So we put this picture into motion. Major weather features are that strong low-pressure area just around to the east of Bermuda. We'll be keeping our eye on that for any signs of development. High pressure in the east, low pressure in the central part of the nation, and high pressure takes over again out in the west. Let's take a look at our U.S. sequence of pictures. Of course, we have Andrew, which we'll get a closer look at in our next sequence. But we did find plenty of showers and thunderstorms with this front from Texas northward into New England on the northern edge of it. Caribou, Maine picked up more than 1 inch of rain yesterday afternoon. Heavy rains also through parts of the mid-Atlantic region down into the southeast, flooding around Trenton, New Jersey, Fair Lawn, New York. Winds gusted to as high as 80 miles per hour at Brook Lawn, New Jersey, along with 1 inch hail. Flooding also occurred at Morgantown, West Virginia, and in North Carolina. Boone picked up more than 3 inches of rain during the afternoon hours. It was cool in the north-central part of the country. Showers and thunderstorms developed across the high plains. Custer, South Dakota picked up about 1/2 inch of rain. Other thunderstorms across Colorado. It was hot and dry through much of the west. Record lows were set in more than 20 cities yesterday morning, most of them in the state of Utah. We'll turn our attention now to a close-up of the eastern part of the nation, get a look at what happened with Andrew. Across the coast yesterday, it's now downgraded to a tropical depression. This morning, located near Jackson, Mississippi at 32.2 north, 90.1 west. The storm is moving to the northeast at about 9 miles per hour, and maximum sustained winds are 35 miles per hour. The storm is continuing to produce heavy rains, possible tornadoes this morning, and we saw yesterday tornadoes did touch down in Louisiana and Mississippi. A lot of heavy rain, strong winds. Baton Rouge reported wind gusts of 65 miles per hour. 5 to 8 inches of rain fell around Jackson, Mississippi, and more than 10 inches of rain to the northeast of Baton Rouge. And heavier rains also occurred with that front northward into the Midwest as moisture streamed northward. Let's take a close-up view of the regional NORAD this morning, centered around the what's left of Andrew, and we saw heavy rains right along the Louisiana coast. Heavy rains still can see somewhat of a tropical nature organization to the precipitation, even a possible tornado around Livingston, Alabama. We'll take a look at what's going on across the rest of the country, and plenty of active showers and thunderstorms with that front from Texas through the lower Mississippi Valley and then into the eastern lakes. Tops range from about 27 to as high as 40,000 feet. With the showers and the thunderstorms around Andrew, tops to about 52,000 feet along the Louisiana coast. Some scattered areas of showers across the southeast, tops there to about 20,000 feet. We'll move on now to this morning's current weather map, and you can see the front stretching from eastern Quebec, comes stationary down across the southern plains and into the southern Rockies. Rain showers, thunderstorms continue heavy this morning, as we saw on radar around Andrew. Wind gusts of 40 miles per hour at Meridian, Mississippi, and more than 30 mile per hour wind gusts reported at Greenwood and Laurel in Mississippi, as well as at Mobile, Alabama. Ahead of the system, the air is hot and humid. Plenty of fog this morning, again, through much of the east and then right down into the Florida Panhandle. Visibility down to zero at such places as Manchester, New Hampshire, Atlantic City, New Jersey, Elmira, New York, and out on Islip, Long Island. As we move westward, high pressure takes over. One area of high pressure over Lake Superior, the other across the central plains. Fog is formed in some spots across the central plains as well. Find visibility down to 3/8 of a mile at Grand Island, Nebraska. Out in the west, weather remains tranquil. High pressure anchored over the inner mountain region. A lot of fog and low clouds out along the Pacific coast this morning. Visibility down to 1/2 mile at San Diego. In the northwest, a cold front's pushing into the region, bringing some rain and showers to the Canadian prairies. Now, the temperature extremes around the nation at 6 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time range from 26 degrees at Jackson, Wyoming, to 84 degrees.
You can see the moisture, though, if you're interested in Andrew, beginning to funnel up here. This is an area of low pressure riding a cold front. All of this moisture trying to squeeze its way into the northeast over the next 24 hours. We can't ignore Andrew at this point because the moisture certainly is headed in our direction. We are firing up thunderstorms and thunder showers ahead of it. You can see the blistery clouds, these moving through, well, New York State, also in through Vermont and New Hampshire. There are also some western New Jersey and southern New Jersey, and there's few on the Hudson Valley this afternoon, and some clouds look like they're just ready to open up. We will have some dotted thunderstorms for a while this afternoon. Likely we'll see them rumbling around, and here's the latest radar shot. You can see again, as we mentioned, those clouds that were in Jersey are certainly opening up with some thunderstorms, and these that are in Pennsylvania are just about ready to push them on through. There's one that's in northwest Jersey that's just beginning to move across, well, probably toward, it looks like about Nyack and kind of moving out toward the Fairfield County area. There are plenty down to the southeast. This is just an awful big range of moisture that's just kicking up in thunderstorms and thunder showers. So not only tonight will we have to deal with them, but they'll start blossoming again tomorrow. Here's where we put Andrew in the picture for our weather. Now the moisture is organized or disorganized.
Now a tropical depression, and it is moving slowly to the northeast. It's going to be dumping about 5 to 10 inches of rain down in the south by this time tomorrow. And what we're wondering now is the path it's going to take. The National Hurricane Center says it's going to move off to the northeast, but the computer models that we look at show it coming up the Appalachians. It remains to be seen. But our exclusive live color Doppler radar, we're the only ones who can show it to you. That you can see that we've got some pretty good activity now starting to crop up around Passaic County, also down around Mercer County. And this is what we're going to be looking at for the next few hours with the buildup of the heat and humidity, hit or miss showers or thunderstorms around the region.
Now, last night we were talking that a lot of the weekend might have been in trouble. Tonight, information is changing once again, so now I think we're actually going to save a portion of this upcoming weekend. It's just between now and maybe Saturday afternoon that we're going to have some problems. Very warm and humid air continues to move up here. Boy, we also have some advisories for those of you that will be spending a lot of time outdoors. We do have an ozone alert out there because the air is really not that healthy to breathe. So do take it easy if you're going to be out exercising, especially in the middle part of the day. This is what's left of Andrew, causing lots of rain and tornadoes across the southern states. And it's still going to be moving up towards us. Look at the satellite picture. You can watch the clouds still spinning. It's still a tropical depression, and that area will move up along the Appalachians and probably spread rain in here later tomorrow into a portion of Saturday. We're still watching this area out in the Atlantic, too, if that should develop into anything tropical. We've had some air mass thunderstorms around the area tonight, but you'll see as the radar goes into motion, they're starting to diminish in intensity. So we do have some optimistic news in this upcoming forecast. Let's check out our current readings. It is still murky out there, though. The temperature 77 degrees, the humidity oppressive at 82%, wind out of the ocean, and the barometer 2994 falling off. We hit 88 this afternoon, and the low this morning 72. A forecast tonight, hazy, muggy, some fog, just as it has been the last couple of nights. 72 in town, mid-60s in the suburbs. Hazy tomorrow, and some thunderstorms move in the afternoon, and especially tomorrow evening, maybe with some heavy rain. High tomorrow, 85. 5-day forecast. Now, we do have the showers still on Saturday, but maybe some improvement late in the day. High 78. Look at Sunday. Nice, 82. And Monday and Tuesday looking nice as well. Well, half of a weekend is better than no weekend of sunshine. More weather tonight at 10. Lynn?
Okay, Nick, we can sleep tonight. A tennis match dubbed the Battle of Champions is looking more and more like the Battle of the Sexes. Jimmy Connors and Martina Navratilova are getting ready to face off in Las Vegas next month. A lot more than the pride of the players is at stake. The winner gets $500,000.
As I look back 20 years, I remember when Billie Jean played Bobby Riggs, and I was watching that on television. I didn't really like the result, so I've been waiting 20 years to turn 40 to try to set that straight a little bit.
I never hit a ball against him, so it's going to be fun to be on the same court with him. And I hope that he's going to have to do a lot of running.
As a handicap, Connors only gets one serve. He has less space to play. The match will air on pay-per-view September 25th.
As we move down the road in our upcoming forecast, you'll notice the change in the improvement, but it's patience that is the key word in that phrase. Let's talk about today, and it was another hot and sticky one. 88 was the high in New York City today, the low 72. Those numbers a bit above normal for this time of the year. No precip, but it was hard even seeing the sky today with all that haze in the air, and there is an advisory out because the air is not the greatest to breathe. Don't have to tell you that. I'm sure just step outside, you know what I mean. The ozone levels, which are unhealthy for us to breathe at a very high rate at a constant level, are awfully high. So keep that in mind and try not to exercise too much in the middle of the day when the ozone levels are the highest. 101 and 50 are extremes for the day. Whew, that 50 would feel real nice right now, wouldn't it? Well, right now what we have is sticky stuff. 75, humidity still up around 90%, wind out of the southeast at 5, the barometer 29.95. And it's holding steady, just like our air mass, just steady and stagnant and sitting on top of the area like a blanket with haze and some fog now forming everywhere. And basically, mid-70s all across our viewing area tonight, except near 70 up in northwest Jersey by Vernon. And our satellite picture is going to show still an area we're watching out here in the Atlantic, but it really is not materializing into anything. That's not saying that it won't. Down here, though, you can see that Tropical Depression Andrew is still around. There's the center in northeastern Alabama. And check out the radar plot underneath those clouds. You can see a lot of rain. They've had tornadoes in Alabama and Georgia, severe weather in Tennessee today, and that area is starting to swing out towards Virginia. And eventually, all of this has to swing right through this spot. That'll be happening sometime later on tomorrow into early Saturday. But the timing on all of this is the key to our weekend forecast as to when all of this is going to come through. Right now, it looks like we'll be looking at the problem starting later on tomorrow afternoon. Our national weather map tonight again showing Andrew down here in Alabama, the hot, steamy air from Boston right on down into Savannah, Georgia, and the cooler air off to the north. It's only been in the 60s again in the upper Midwest today. Andrew tomorrow heads towards the Appalachians, and again, eventually, some of that will get in here tomorrow night, maybe with some heavier downpours. Again, the timing is everything here. If everything comes together, Saturday morning may still be a bit of a problem, but by Saturday afternoon, the improvement comes in, and then you'll see as we move down the road, it gets pretty nice. Hazy, muggy, and foggy tonight, though. Careful if you're driving. Mid-60s in the suburbs, 72 in town. Hazy sun, just a little bit of it tomorrow. Then the thunderstorms come in later in the day, and especially tomorrow night, high 85 degrees. 5-day forecast now will show you on Saturday. Again, just I think in the morning will be the problem. The afternoon, actually, the sun will come out, 78. And look at Sunday. There's our reward. Lower humidity, 82. Monday and Tuesday look nice as well. And that's our latest on the weather. Rosanna?
Okay, sounds good, Nick. If you were watching Fox TV tonight, you may have caught the new comedy Martin. Robin Carter talked with the show's star, and Bruce Springsteen lashes out at his detractors. Robin's got that story too.
Well,
Robin.
Roseanne, it seems that Bruce Springsteen is getting just a little bit tired of Bruce bashing critics who are suggesting he is a has-been because his new albums have failed to hit the #1 spot on the charts. Well, the boss says they've sold as well as most of his other LPs, and besides, he says he doesn't pay attention to record sales. Yeah.
Most of the rest of the country's enjoying fair weather. Let's take a look first at our jet stream this morning, our satellite motion. Big broad ridge of high pressure over the western half of the country, the trough in the northeast with the moisture. little ripples or disturbances moving through the jet will bring occasional changes of the weather across the northwest and north central states. Putting those clouds into motion, you can see how the moisture just fed right out of the lower Mississippi Valley and the Tennessee Valley into the northeastern part of the country during the past 24 hours. That low out around Bermuda looks like it has dissipated, not going to pose any threat. In the lower part of our picture out in the Pacific, we have Tropical Storm Madeline, 1,500 miles southwest of Cabo San Lucas with winds of 40 gusting to 50 miles per hour, strengthening as she moves to the west-northwest. And this tropical depression, which looks like it will turn into a tropical storm in the next 24 hours. Well, over North America, as we said, all the rain, for the most part, confined to the eastern part of the country. Here and there, you can find some scattered thunderstorms through Texas, some showers and thunder showers, which have been associated with this front moving across the north-central states back into the mountains of northeastern Washington yesterday. But generally, a warming trend out through the plains yesterday. It was quite warm along the eastern seaboard ahead of the advancing rain and clouds, with 90s reaching up into the central part of New York State, with 60s around the upper lakes. And as we close in on the eastern half of the country, again, the tropical moisture moving northeastward. Tornadoes, heavy thunderstorms associated with this. Tornadoes reported in Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia, a number of instances of damage. Wind gusts to 30 and 40 miles per hour, quite common across parts of Alabama yesterday, with 2- and 3-inch rains. Funnel clouds were reported even up around the Greenville-Spartanburg area of South Carolina. Up to 2 2/3 inches of rain reported at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and that all moving to the northeast. And while we've been talking about Hurricane Andrew the past couple of days, out in the western Pacific, Typhoon Omar has moved across the territory of Guam today with winds of 90 gusting to 115 miles per hour, heavy damage, heavy rain, many injuries, and Tropical Storm Polly moving across the island of Taiwan. Well, back to home, and here we see the rain in the area along the west slopes of the Appalachians here, moving out of Tennessee and North Carolina now up into the Virginias, the Ohio Valley. Many places getting 2-3 inches of rain here back in some of the mountain areas. Generally lesser amounts, but certainly bringing the threat of flooding into the northeastern part of the country. And as we turn to our national radar, again, most of the rain here from the Carolinas on northward. Now, there are some embedded thunderstorms, tops ranging up to 25 to 32,000 feet, some 54,000-foot tops with isolated thunderstorms down along the Gulf coastal waters. And with our frontal system out across the north-central states, here too some showers, perhaps a few embedded thunder showers. Let's have a look at our national map this morning. Again, this morning has been a very foggy start to the day throughout the northeast and east-central states here down in the mid-Atlantic region. Portland, Maine, their visibility down to 0 in the past hour. New Haven, Connecticut reporting heavy fog, as is Albany, Philadelphia, down through the Baltimore area. Then the rain associated with the remnants of our hurricane here working its way northward along the front and up into the Great Lakes area. Now, out in the central part of the country, things dry out, skies clear out. In fact, the temperatures cooled off with those clear skies and light winds. We've had some record low temperatures reported from Abilene, Texas, and over at Wichita Falls, Texas this morning. A little bit of shower and thunder shower activity.
More or less what's left of that former Hurricane Andrew. The good news is for us that it's moving along to the north and east at a pretty good clip. A slow-moving frontal system back behind that will slowly move on through the area tomorrow, helping finally to bring a pretty nice weekend forecast. We thought that front might linger a little bit, but it looks like on tomorrow's map that we're going to be okay. As that front moves on out to sea, high pressure will build in and we'll have sunshine in the forecast for a good part of the weekend. First of all, let's check our forecast for this evening. Rain and thunderstorms. Rain will be heavy at times, but it shouldn't last all night. That'll move on through here. Overnight low temperatures from the mid-60s to low 70s. And for tomorrow, some scattered showers in the morning to the north, but generally partly sunny skies with highs
including Suffolk County, but from Nassau County westward across the city, including the southeastern parts of New York up through parts of Rockland and Westchester County, most of New Jersey, and that's until 1 o'clock in the morning. And here's the reason why. There's been a line of big storms coming across southeastern Pennsylvania and in towards the Baltimore area into Salisbury, Maryland, and even some reports of tornadoes breaking out in this line, and that's why the tornado watch is now up for our area, and you can see that it is aiming right towards us, so we'll be watching that very, very closely as the night comes along. Satellite view-wise, you can see all the clouds associated with what's left over of Andrew, and also a cold front that'll be coming on through. You see them, again, moving in from west to east, and behind that, the drier air is in. So the problem is tonight as the front comes through, and then the nice weather starts moving in for the weekend. Check out our current reading now in Central Park. The temperature, still a very sticky 72 degrees with high humidity and a gusty southeasterly wind. The barometer is falling off. The high today was 85, the low 74, just a bit above normal for this time of the year. No precip yet, but it's coming. Watch out. That tornado watch till 1 in the morning for everybody, just about, except Suffolk County. And thunderstorms and some heavier downpours will be around, too. 69 in the city, mid-60s in the suburbs. Tomorrow, a brief shower early, mostly east of the city, and then the sun moves in. How about that for a change? 82 tomorrow. Let's check the 5-day forecast, and I think you'll like it. Nice on Sunday, 85 with lots of sun. Just a chance of a shower early on Monday, 83, and then decent weather for Tuesday and Wednesday. I'll be watching those storms for you, and we'll bring you an update tonight at 10. Rosanna?
All right, thanks, Nick. Carl White's here now with sports. Do you think Cone getting canned had anything to do with the controversy that's been surrounding him the past year?
Yeah, I think so. That had a lot to do with it. But money was the big deal, and everybody's still talking about the David Cone deal, and General Manager Al Harrison is really taking a beating, Rosanna. Regardless of what you thought of the deal itself, I personally believe that the front page of the New York Post was an unnet.
Some of those outfits may have come from Mars. Who knows? All right, we're looking for some improvement, and we're going to get it, and it's just in time for the weekend. It's not so nice outside right now, though. Let's talk about today, and the record book shows the high was 85, the low 74. Oh, just a little bit of rain so far in the city, but it's come down a little heavier in some spots as this little weather system, the remnants of Andrew or what have you, coming through at the last hour. 100, 1948, and 50 and 1885 make our extremes. Right now in New York City, it is 76 degrees, and the humidity still awfully oppressive with a gusty south wind. At times has been up over 40 miles per hour in some places, really wreaking havoc along some of the coastal communities. 29.65 the barometer, and it's still sailing away, but it'll be coming back tomorrow as the weather will be improving. Some showers and thunder showers in the area, basically middle to even some upper 70s at Newark and LaGuardia and Kennedy. Even Poughkeepsie pretty warm tonight, and same for Ossining at 78. Sparta 73, and the same goes for Trenton and Monroe, and we have 74 out in the Hamptons tonight. All right, watch the radar. There's a line of storms. We had a tornado watch out earlier. There were tornadoes down around Baltimore and Salisbury, Maryland. But you see as the line has come through, it's hit that southeasterly wind, which normally kills off the real threat of big storms around here. And that's exactly what happened. The radar really showing the rain showers falling apart. And that's it, folks. There's not too much behind it. As this front comes through, the cloud line moving through central Pennsylvania now down to about the nation's capital, that will pass. And we'll get into the improving weather forecast just in time for the weekend. It's been a complex forecast getting up to this weekend because we really weren't too sure what the remnants of Andrew would end up doing in our area, but we still have it out there now. The front will be coming through, and we'll be getting into the drier air as the time comes along here. So, and also, I want to note that the humidity is going to be dropping off, so things are really going to be looking up over the weekend. There goes the front tomorrow, so the sun will be moving in. And the temperature is pretty warm for the summertime weather for this upcoming weekend. Again, the humidity will be dropping off. Everybody's happy. Even Lynn and Rosanna are happy with this forecast. 82 at the beach tomorrow in most places, maybe some upper 70s on the island and coastal Connecticut, and the same on Sunday with lots of sun. Watch out, they're a little windy tomorrow. You boaters might be a little choppy with westerly winds gusting up to 25 knots. Still the threat of a shower. There's a flood watch up north. Why, I don't know. They should probably take it down, but it still is up for the Catskills in Connecticut. 69 in the city by morning, mid-60s in the suburbs, but the sun moves in tomorrow. High of 82 degrees. 5-day forecast, you'll love Sunday. 85, lots of sun, morning low 64, very comfortable Sunday morning. Maybe a shower early Monday, other than that it clears out, 83, and then back into the middle 80s for Tuesday with more sunshine and a few clouds will return on Wednesday. Hey, this is going to be 2 weekends in a row that we're getting some great weather, making up for lost time, and making a great weekend. Rosanna?
Very
nice. Package. Would you believe that's Annie, get your gun?
I had no idea. I thought Merriman was so tall. Chocolate jockey shorts?
Hershey bars melted on him.
Attention all personnel. At 13:30 hours, we'll be holding the finals of the cockroach race time trials.
You going?
Nah. People are...
So as we look at tomorrow morning, we certainly have a better looking picture for you. There will be sunshine out there, and call it about 73, 70 degrees around town. Yeah, it cools off quickly, 68 north and west of the city. We also had some flooding in Monmouth County simply because the southern winds and extra heavy tides caused a little shower and, you know, shore flooding out that direction. Shouldn't be any problem much later tonight. Tomorrow, an improving picture. It's partly sunny from the start, breezy. I think it's going to even go better than that. Let's call it partly cloudy to mostly sunny from the start. Let's do that. Let's just go wild and go crazy. Mostly sunny by afternoon. It's
making sand castles, turtles in the sand, sand castles, great weather.
And this is what I look all sprawled out on the couch on a good day. Really good weather for making sandcastles. Gorgeous weather today. Lots of sunshine, beautiful weather. It's 71 degrees right now. Very dry humidity. And the barometer's been rising, but it has been windy today. Winds have been west at 12, gusting up to 22 miles per hour. The numbers today 2 degrees below normal. Look at these satellite pictures. Gorgeous weather today. If you saw the weather yesterday, we had Caribbean blue skies. That was the air mass from the leftover remnants from Andrew. It's passed on now. We have just a few clouds passing across with the low that's moved now into Canada. Nothing really to see as our next weather maker. A little bit of a front is out west, but that's really all that's going on. Look at these temperatures for tomorrow. Going to be great weather. 70s and 80s will dry right into the northeast after 60s and 70s today. So the forecast weather map from AccuWeather tomorrow is going to show high pressure controlling our weather, giving us gorgeous weather. And temperatures tomorrow are going to be really nice, too.
Are getting successive weekends of beautiful weather. I don't have to tell you that about 16 out of 21 weekends have been ruined because of rain. And this weekend, folks, it's going to be the second weekend in a row that we actually do it with great weather. I knew you'd like to hear that. Let's talk about today. It was terrific out there. A nice fresh breeze out of the west most of the day. High was only 77. I say only because we've been in the high 80s to low 90s most of this week. 65 the low. That is our present temperature. No precip today. 99 in 1953 and 50 back in 1986 for our record lows. And our record lows have started to dip down towards that 50-degree mark. So I guess a sign that maybe there's not too much left of summer anyway here. Temperature now 65. Look at how dry the air is. Low dew point, low humidity. Wind out of the west at 9, and the barometer 30.02, and it is rising. An interesting video there tonight. Clear skies across the area. Very pleasant Saturday night across all of the tri-state area where temperatures are still basically in the mid-60s from the Hamptons back to Farmingdale right now. 68 out of Queens, 61 at White Plains, and notice in the northern suburbs, they're already in the 50s. 57 at Poughkeepsie and Danbury. We even have close to 60-degree readings at Morristown, and it's 58 at Trenton right now. Close-up satellite, no problems. The clouds are all up to our north. The clear weather from New York City back south and westward, and the moving satellite that'll show you the clouds from 7 o'clock this morning up to the present. Well, there's nothing really coming at us. In the near future, there are some storms moving across the upper Midwest, and that'll probably get into our forecast eventually here, or at least just a chance at some of those storms early Monday morning. Other than that, it's dry. High pressure is built in, and that pushed the remnants of Andrew up into eastern Canada and away from the United States, and there's some heat building out across much of the southern states tonight where it's in the 80s and into the 90s. Now tomorrow, the high pressure still in control, so it's a great day, although as the day comes along, there'll be an increasing southwesterly wind, so again, it'll be a bit breezy tomorrow. That'll keep the temperatures, though, in the 80s for most spots, except south coastal parts of Long Island and Connecticut. And that front will slip through with just a chance of a shower Monday morning, and then the rest of next week is looking pretty good. Well, again, Andrew's gone, but how about the rest of the tropics? Watch for this little area of disturbed weather coming across the Atlantic, but that's not organizing into anything now, and some clouds off the east coast. Other than that, nothing too much to worry about for the time being. That's some good news compared to what's happened in this country earlier this week. Boaters tomorrow, west to southwesterly wind, kind of gusty, make the seas a bit choppy tomorrow. Be careful, there may be a small craft advisory tomorrow. Lots of sun, though, high 70s to near 80, and the ocean temperature in the low to mid-70s. Clear and comfortable tonight. 60 in town, near 50, though, in the northern and western suburbs. Lots of sun tomorrow, high of 84 degrees. And the 5-day forecast now is going to show you that we're looking pretty good in the outlook as we go down the road here. And there it is. Just a chance of a shower with temperature about 83 on Monday. And then the sun will come through in the afternoon. Tuesday and Wednesday look spectacular. And then another chance of rain coming in later on Thursday. So we're looking pretty good. Overall, compared to what the weather's been like this summer, I think we can deal with that forecast.
We should mention you're in for Alan. Alan's off tonight.
Yes,
is Alan also off tomorrow night?
He'll be off tomorrow night. A little glow about you.